Understood? I'm ready. Okay. Okay. David.
Okay, let me just try and push the buttons here and get the right thing on the screen, and I'll be right with you. Anything happen there? Anything happen there? Yes, there we are. Okay. So, hi, this is something, like Monty Python, something completely different. I'm not sure that I have anything really as exciting as all that to show you, but I'd just like to mention a few things about social networks. I'm from the European Broadcasting Union, and we have a few people who sit around all day and try to work out what the trends and tendencies are in broadcasting and the internet. And so I'm going to sort of steal some of their work. But about a year ago, we did a survey of EBU members about how soon they thought the great broadband wave would come. And actually, we were very surprised because really about 3/4 of the EBU members thought that by 2015, which is just 5 years away, 50% of their reach would come from internet. So that means you have about 5 years, if you like, to get ready for the situation whereby broadcasting and internet share, as it were, the effectiveness of your organization. And this question, are social networks the successor to broadcasting, is not a silly question. The answer is no, but it's certainly something that I think we all need to think about as broadcasters in this crucial period when broadband really grows to some kind of parity with broadcasting. So social networks, you know what they are. Of course, it's a great big community, and they are important, but when you're talking about them and about internet, you have to keep things perhaps in some kind of proportion. And so I mean, what do people use the web for? Actually, if you look at the numbers, I'm sorry, I got a few tables here. Up until now, at least, really the predominant thing that we spend our time on has not been social networks. It's the big one is using a search engine, looking up the news, banking, weather, and so on, trying to find out what you're going to buy, and so on, paying the bills. The one that is creeping up the list, though, is watching a video clip, and I was recording those days in 2007 when we saw at the EBU what was happening on YouTube with the NRK clip. And there was just one additional lesson there that I think I would like to share with you about that, which was that actually, apart from all of the things you heard about how well it did and how people liked it, notice that this was a clip produced not by some kid in a bathroom in Los Angeles. This was produced by professional people. Given a circumstance when what is available comes from somebody who's just a kid in a bathroom and a professional, since then it's been very clear that the public will take the professional stuff. I mean, I suppose this is obvious, isn't it? But it's something to think about. That as we move forward, we're probably moving less. Moving out of the days of amateurs and more into the days of professionals. But anyway, this is the first point, is that keep it in proportion, okay? Social networks are important, but it's only a small proportion of the actual hours that you spend on the internet. But they are growing, and this is the big one, isn't it? Twitter. This is really ramping up like crazy, and it has amazing growth. You know what you have to do is you have to write a little bit of text, don't you, in about 2 or 3 lines, and say what you're doing. I'm going to the bathroom or whatever it is. But this is the one that's really growing and really powerful. You can't see this curve, but you'll see that also, actually, if you analyze the growth factor plus, the time people spend on it and the penetration, actually, social network is right up there in the top right-hand corner. This is the one, this is the takeoff of social networking. And this is why it's probably going to outgrow many of those other things that you saw on the list of things that we do today. This is a sort of a silly mountain that we use. don't quite believe it, but for what it's worth, you know, as we see it, we're actually kind of on a journey, or some kind of a journey up a mountain in the media world. This is a bit abstract, isn't it? But you know, you start by having the means to get the media, then you've got to find out what's available, then you have some kind of experience, and as we see it, we're actually on this. We're on a road where we climb as far up this mountain as we wish, as we need to, but it of course ends in creation at the top. So that's a bit abstract, but it may be something to think about. Now, the EBU is essentially an organization of public service broadcasters, or broadcasters that have a public service mission. And essentially that's, as you know, it's about making the world a better place to be in. So what I'd like to ask you to think about is just one level of abstraction, which is, why is it that these social networks are so important for us as public service broadcasters? Why should this be absolutely indispensable that we understand what's happening here and realize that we've got about 5 years to get our act together? And if you ask social scientists, and again, I know this is something of an abstraction, program makers hate social scientists, don't they? You know, you go and tell them about their agenda and about how the signage and so on of what they're doing, and they tell you to get out because they're just making programs. But if you don't mind a little bit of abstraction, then a social scientist would tell you that actually what is it that we do as human beings from the day we're born, apart from eating and sleeping and living? And the answer is, the fundamental thing is to seek out who we are, our identity. Everybody needs to find out who they are and how they relate to others. And this is actually why we consume any kind of media. This is why we support a football team, because it tells us who we are. This is why we like Gone with the Wind, because we feel like we're Rhett Butler. This is why we do all of these things, is to place ourselves in context. And in fact, what happens is that this need to identify yourself gets less as you get older, because you get more sure of yourself, but it's definitely still there. So if the purpose of public service media is to help human needs to be met, which it is, isn't it? Then social networks, which provide this community, locate you in people space, is exactly what the public service mission is. So this is why it's a fantastic tool for public service broadcasters. And of course they are particularly valuable for young people, because they are trying to find their identity. You know, so this is my first point. I hope you don't think it's too academic. Please think about it anyway. Why social networks? Answer: they serve a fundamental part of the public service mission. Now, the world is never simple, is it? And nothing in this world is simple. There is a part of this. You know, there are sort of downsides, if you like, to this social network business. And I think arguably this is one of them. What is happening is that what we are seeing is something which you might call big company domination. And it's not just big company domination, yeah? Now look, if you can't read that table, but you'll see if you look at the one on the top, which is Facebook. This is the biggest one by far. This is huge compared to other social networks. There are others, but you have to go quite a long way down that line. You know, we're talking about Facebook, which has whatever it is, you know, you can see the 120 unique visitors or something a day, and you compare that, you have to come down to smaller ones with 8, 10, and 11, and so on. So you see, Facebook is outgrossing the rest by 10 to 1, or something like this. So the big one. Now, does it matter that Facebook is an American company, that it's based in the United States, that it works in English? Does that matter? Do you care about whether you have a diversity of languages, or does it matter that there is a kind of cultural homogenization taking place? Is that important? I don't know, but it's just something to signal to you. That's one of the other sides of this social network discussion. And our feeling, anyway, is that over the next 5 years, what you've got to do is to take care of these two things. First of all, these broadband networks across Europe are really growing in capacity till we can deliver all of these things like you heard, 720p or 1080i. So what we're seeing is the explosion of high-capacity networks. These are being able to match broadcasters in what they can provide, and social networks. These are the two biggest things. You have 5 years to understand those and to arrange your organization around them. And if you like, and if you believe this thesis that what we are really all trying to do, particularly young people, is to find our identity, where we locate with respect to other people. Now what is happening is that these things like social networks, on-demand video, because when we watch drama, we identify with the people in it, and other things like virtual world, Second Life, and so on. All this are merging together, converging into this kind of identity machine which the internet will become and will help us locate ourselves. So this is when worlds collude as we see it. And it's already started, isn't it? This business of using social networks to allow people to comment on, to talk about media. This is really growing. And it started already. You can link Facebook to your website and to your media. You can get it. You can use it to discuss programs. There's nothing wrong with this. This is quite normal and natural. But it's a question of understand what is happening. This collusion of the high-quality media and the social network. The social network becoming the means of telling us what we watch, what we care about, what we do in terms of media. What do you think? So when we ask people, and there are of course, there are lots of broadcasters that have social media, what is it that broadcasters achieve? What could you achieve by using social media? Here are a few things, and maybe you think they're right, or you maybe think they're wrong, but some people say, well, actually, because of this identity thing, we're talking about a better public service. People usually say they get increased positive perception. The way the public sees them increases. And they get out there, as you heard from NRK, a community of evangelists. People out there who think you are doing a good job. People there who say only NRK could do this. They could say that to you. And you get feedback, of course. You get information on what programs you do. And something which is popularly called crowdsourcing. This means you get the public somehow to submit ideas for your content to make it better, to give you new good ideas for that. And just as a sort of throwaway, actually, in terms of the private commercial world, people selling things, 70% of private companies who use social networks for opinions and whatnot say that their profits get better as well. Not that, that's of course not an issue for us, but this is what people say social media does. And one of the things is how you measure all that, and this is the kind of things that people say, the number of contributors you have, the nature of the contributions. People do surveys, of course, and this lovely term, ROI, the return on ignoring, what happens if you don't do anything. That's very good for a cocktail party discussion, return on ignoring, by the way. And as I said, commercial companies like Starbucks say that their revenues grow as well. What are the biggest challenges at the beginning? I'm hoping you're really enthusiastic about this and you know what you've got to do. This is what people tell us anyway. First of all, you've got the lack of in-house expertise. Obviously, that's not the case at NRK. There are issues in terms of resources and time, but you have to think about this in terms of what it will be when half of the company's reach comes from the internet. There are sometimes regulatory issues. You probably know that in Germany, for example, the public service broadcasters, there's some difficulty in providing content which is not actually related to television programs they broadcast. And the mindset of management. This, of course, does not apply to you. I'm very sure you have senior management who are enlightened, who have no problem with seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, seeing this 50%. But nevertheless, some of our members say that their management is a little bit conservative. I'm sure it's not the case. So what to do? Here's a few suggestions. Start, but start modestly until you learn. Expect some mistakes at the beginning. Use people who are enthusiastic. This is very important. This is vital. And you need people who are flexible and who do not count hours when you're talking about these things. And think creatively about combining new and old media. And one of the real great things is making the news interactive. Comments and feedback on the news, getting people to care about it, to feel involved with it and associated with it. And you can use viral videos, things on YouTube and so on. These are some of the things that you might want to think about. So I'm almost there, but before I go, there are people who argue that we have a gorilla in the next room as far as social networks are concerned. You might have seen it, but when you buy a new television set today, it often says that it has an internet connection with it. This is sometimes called internet TV, and one of them is this one, actually, which is one developed by Yahoo. But essentially what happens is that the viewer watches the TV and the broadband internet at the same time. He can cut one into the other. And so what is in the TV set is a little mini browser. You know, it's not as good as a PC browser, but it's there. And the services that are started, like this one by Yahoo, there are others, or there's practically one new one a month. All of them are hoping to pull into this mixed world where you watch on the TV screen social networks like Facebook, Flickr, and so on. So the viewer can watch the program here, and here he gets all his Twitter or other comments on it. So what do you think? If you could watch a program, or if your audience could, and they could see these reactions to it at the same time, would that change things? So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope it's not too abstract, but I'd like to suggest to you that social networks serve a public service objective, a very important one, the human search for identity, and it's most important for young people. And that combination of media distribution at high quality and social networks looks to be a very critical combination for your future. And this hybrid broadcast broadband, the mixing of the two, may provide that social experience for absolutely everybody who's watching television. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, David. Are there any questions on this? This one? One or two for David? I've got one. David, is it a threat or social networks for PBS? Because start slowly with it. Don't overestimate, I understood.
It's a suggestion, yes.
It's a suggestion, yeah. Keep it in proportion. What do you mean with that exactly?
Keep it in proportion. Well, when I made the first point about the proportion, it was not meant to suggest that in any way that social networks are not important or less important. It was just simply that, as always, you have to keep a sense of balance in this. And, you know, we can't neglect our television programs because they're always going to provide half the audience or whatever it is. So that was the only point. But yes, this is a game where you need new kinds of people, a new outlook, a new management mindset. So that's why I was suggesting that most members find that it's better to start modestly and build up over time to something like the great show we saw from NRK.
I asked because I think Richard and Marius do not agree with you about it, but we'll come back on it later. Yeah, Richard, please.
Thank you, Gerard. Well, welcome everybody. I'm the third in the row. I guess that you're getting a little tired, so I want to speed through my presentation a little bit. As you can see, I'm with Bavarian Broadcasting, and I'm going to talk about social media a little bit with you. Thanks to Marius, I was able to use this computer, so let's just get started. So that you see my background here, I'm coming from Germany. As you see on the very bottom down there, that's Bavaria, the beautiful beer state. Marius already showed us some clips from our folks. So yes, that's how we act down there. I personally come from that little big dot down there, the red one, that's Munich. But we also have a very big one up there in Franken, which is Nuremberg. And these are like this is like the axis of our network, the biggest two stations that we provide with our like headquarters, so to speak. We also have in the other regions within Bavaria reporters, 21 correspondents. They by now not only use for radio, they also use for television. They also have a little camera with them, so whenever something happens, they can at least like send some like rough cuts or some like B-roll pictures so that we can illustrate our news when like something like car crash or something happens. So this is what we're talking about. That is my origin. That is BR television. I'm with one of the 2 television channels, but we also run 5 radio stations. We have an online radio channel that just started for our young audience. Our company is rather big, even for German terms. We have 3,000 employees, like contract workers, but we also work with 3,000 freelancers. That is to speak also like for administration and within the entire ARD national network. The average number of viewers during prime time, I must say, is around 500,000. We sometimes have 1 million, sometimes even 2, when there's some extraordinary programs such as, let's say, the Oktoberfest or like special events that we cover. But as for many other public stations, our average age is rather high. It is 61, nearly 62 by now. And we're growing each year even older, faster than the average of the German people. So in order to stop this kind of movement, we try to experiment a little bit with media networks that we know that young people tend to use. Above all, that's Facebook. We just learned from David that this is huge. Also, it's very huge in Norway, and it's huge all over the world by now, I guess. I guess the actual figure, I'm not sure about that, but I think in Germany it's 7 million people are having a Facebook account. We also started to have Twitter feeds. We divided them in different sorts of interest, like sports. We have a different feed for sports. We have some for news and for culture and so on. We also run or experiment with 5 blogs that we are like connecting to our programs. And we do live chat, so when we have like a discussion like with politicians, we always ask the politician to stay a little longer after the program has been aired to answer questions over live chat. And apparently that works quite well. We have, after each and every program, up to 100, 150 people participating in those chats. And if you think about it, this is politics. So very old audience. Kids do not care about politics that much, unfortunately. But so despite the fact that we have a very serious, very like laid-back audience, they go to the chat, and that's something we didn't expect to happen. So we're gonna keep it. And we also experience more and more with user-generated content. I have coincidentally a website I found that you might recognize here. So you might say, how do we relay, or like how does Bavaria share something here with this big network that is actually not of any interest to our viewers, at least? But as you can see and look closely for the captions of the pictures, they're coming from BR, and they're not only coming from BR like my network, they're coming from viewers of our network. So what we actually did was, there was a shooting like last year at one high school, and we didn't have, nobody actually had access to that school. And one of our viewers like happened to be at the scene, took some pictures, and he sent them to us. And we asked him, can we like pass them on, because we have so many requests by from all over the world to pass on the picture. And he said, yeah, sure, go ahead. So that's how even our viewers can contribute to the viewers of any other network around the globe. So here's just an example of our Twitter feed. I must be very honest with you, I'm not very happy with this Twitter feed, because it's only a feed. It is only like the one-way street that we heard about with Marius before, that we still send something out, and expect others to pick it up, but we do not allow like to send back to us. So this is like a one-way street still. So this is like still in the old mindset of us like broadcasting, but you know, we do not listen to our viewers. And that's why I don't like the Twitter feed, because basically what we do, we just run like the news here, but we do not pick up like any ideas or whatsoever. Our viewers come. And you can see it actually by the number of our followers, 470 followers after nearly a year of doing this. That's sad. What works pretty well is our Facebook page. We just started to have a Facebook page for our broadcasting unit, like they do. Those 3 people that you see in the left corner are the hosts of our early morning program. So, and what they do is actually before and during the program, the radio program, they like go into Facebook and they say, hello, hi, who's out there? We're going to talk about this and that. Do you have a question for us? And so they basically really literally let people, invite people to participate on the radio. And you can see we just started the page 4 months ago, 5 months ago, and we already have 5,000 fans, and that's good. That is good. I mean, you're like, seriously, who in the world has the time, like early in the morning before he like gets to work to hook up to the computer and to participate here? But still, this is definitely a hit. So, but I must tell you, like I personally am in a kind of weird situation here, because not only I'm a reporter and I also anchor the news for Bavarian Broadcasting, but I'm also a blogger. And as a blogger, you know, like I found myself all of a sudden in a very intriguing new situation, whereas I could do and experience and report actually about things that, as in my identity as a public broadcast servant, I could not do before. And let me just give you like a little like really good example, you know, like what I mean when I say that due to social media and due to blogging and due to like the feedback that I get, I can do even better than I can as a reporter with public German television. I happened to be in New York a couple of weeks ago. Who of you has heard of the iPad? Raise your hands. The iPad? Yes. Okay, that's pretty much everybody. Okay, so I happened to be in New York, and I really wanted to get this device, right? So, and I thought, you know, like, I heard that there's quite a line waiting for that, you know, like whenever Apple comes up with something, like people stand and flock in line, and like crazy days, nights before, during sunshine, but also during rain. So I thought like, okay, so you better be prepared for that line. And while I was sitting there and waiting like for the store to open, why shouldn't I, you know, like just, you know, like share that kind of an experience with my readers, with my viewers of my personal blog? So you must remember, this is not happening. I'm not here as a BR public reporter. I'm here as a private person. But yet what I do is reporting, but I do it in a different style. So I was preparing to sit down in the line in front of the store in order to wait for it to open. But what I did before I left, I announced on my blog, on my personal blog, that I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to sit there and wait there in line. And if you'd like to join me, please do so. So I put on my blog webpage like all these little buttons, and I told them, listen, if you want to participate, like wait with me in the line, please come on and join me. So I signed up to all of these networks, and I wanted to, like, I Twittered with the people while I was waiting there. I was like maintaining my Facebook page. I was putting pictures to my Flickr account. And it didn't take long for those people like to get aware, hey, there's some crazy German waiting in the line in New York, and he actually like you know, like he's on the air, he's twittering, he's like chatting live, and we can ask questions and ask him, how are you doing, how's the weather, did you see the iPad, did you see Steve Jobs yet walking in or something? But that was not enough. As a broadcaster, I also had like the impetus of I wanted to like, you know, like bring video to the people. I wanted to like really give them an inside feeling of what it is to stand there with all those geeks and nerds and crazy people, what kind of atmosphere I'm actually like go through here. So what I did, I was sitting on my garden chair, I had my laptop on my knees, and I just put all the video that I did with tiny little cameras and all the sound bites together, edited it, put it on YouTube right over the air. It was just like sitting in the middle of New York street, Manhattan, and sending out my little clips. And let me show you one of them.
So what are you doing here?
I'm waiting here for the Apple iPad.
Oh, that's really cool. Wait, so you sleep here to wait for it?
Sure.
That's crazy.
What are you in line for?
For the iPad.
For the iPad already?
Yeah.
Camped out. Released tomorrow.
Right.
Hardcore. Good for you.
Darf ich vorstellen, meine Sitznachbarn. Giovanna, 11 Jahre alt, und ihre Mutter Jeannie. Ja, und auf der anderen Seite, das ist Dean. Genauso verrückt wie wir alle.
Why not? It's the iPad. This might be bigger than anything.
Das denkt offenbar auch dieser freundliche Onkel. Der kommt von CNN und stellt ganz weltbewegende Fragen.
Why are you on the line?
Kaum habe ich es mir so richtig gemütlich gemacht und mich eingerichtet, da kommt dieser Mann plötzlich um die Ecke gebogen. Er ist Store Manager vom Apple Store und er möchte, dass wir alle umziehen. Und zwar ganz nach vorne auf das Plateau.
So you get the idea. What I did was like just like randomly taking what's ever been happening and just putting it online as I was sitting there. So like I updated my website every other hour, and I could tell like by the number of viewers that it was like raising as I was sitting there. So I started up with some 1,000 people with the first video and climbed up to the 2,000 views on the second video and up to 12,000 with the third video and so on and so on. So not only that, I could also like track while I was still sitting there like the people who tuned in and who watched what I was doing. So this is like the visitors that I had on my site after a couple of hours, and I could narrow it down like for Germany, and so that was pretty intense, pretty cool. I didn't expect that like so many people actually liked what I did. I also like appeared while I was sitting there, and like these comments I was getting there while I was still in it. So this is nothing that just happened like 2 weeks later or something. This was immediate reactions, and I was able to answer questions. I was able like to communicate with other bloggers. You mentioned the godfather of all bloggers, Robert Scoble. He was sitting on the West Coast in front of the store, Apple store in San Francisco, and we Skyped, and we did a video conference from one store to the other over the web, and it was amazing. We had like so many people watching us doing that. It was just a big party. So it got picked up everywhere. So days later, I Google myself. So I was astonished that my name was mentioned in languages I've never heard about, and I kind of felt like, in a way. Let me put it in this way. I've been working in the news business for 10 years now. I've covered major events. I've covered 9/11. I've covered stories of all sorts and of all colors. But for the first time in my life, ever since I started like to communicate with social networks, I feel like an actor who's been playing for movies for decades and going back to the stage and getting like one by one response by the audience, like a feedback. And it feels good, it feels nice, you feel connected to the people that you're actually working for. And I think there's something to it, that not only the benefits for the people, but also for us as reporters and as journalists. I happen to be, and that is my conclusion, happen to be on the road for quite a while in the US. Last year, I was invited by the State Department, and I got the chance to speak to many journalists, not only with broadcast journalists, but more important with print journalists. And as you know, like the situation in the United States is even worse as it is here in Europe with the printing press and the printed newspapers. Every week there's one newspaper of long tradition closing down in the United States, and they're letting go people, like thousands and thousands and thousands of journalists, they let them go. And I happened to be in Seattle right at the time when they fired when they shut down the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, which is a huge, big paper in Seattle, and it has been around for 150 years, even longer. And I asked one of the head executives who just lost his job, what would you do different if you could only go back in time for 10 years? With what you know today, what would you change? What would you do differently now? And here's some quotes that he gave to me. He said, experiment like crazy, think of the wildest thing that you can think of, and then do it. And our main mistake that we have done here was we didn't fail enough. And that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Richard, for this good insight in social network usage, of course. Are there any questions from the audience? Nobody wants to make comment or have something to ask? Yes? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Richard, I just wondered how you know, everything you say is true, and the New York and the iPad and so on and the iPhone. And if you go on the web, what you find is that actually the busiest news sites are the ones about gadgets, you know. And I suppose I wonder, do you think that really, you know, gadgets are becoming the kind of new religion of our world, and that we look for them, we look for news about them so vociferously, and I'm just as guilty as anybody else. You know, are we becoming a world infatuated by technology, and is that the way it's got to be and it's going to be?
That is a very important point that you're making, and I think right now, actually, I agree. Right now, everybody is crazy. I have been witness to the craziness that people stand there in line for a week for something like this, for a piece of glass and of plastic and microchips. But that is only true for now. I think there will come a time when we actually do not look at technology as technology anymore, whereas, you know, like everything, you know, like becomes in a way like natural, that we take it for granted, as we do that we have lights here, electricity, or even wireless network. So right now, I agree. It's pretty much like about the device, and whether you have an iPhone, whether you have the Android, whether you have like the Microsoft or the Google world or whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But I think at one point, you know, like that doesn't matter anymore, because then we're so used with it as, like, take navigators on your car right now, and like it used to be that huge thing, right? And it was expensive. Take mobile phones. We take them for granted. We don't talk about the existence anymore. So at one point, I think that will go back, and then we can actually focus, and that will be the time when journalism, like true journalism and content, becomes like the focus again.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tone Kunst from the NRK, and I was just wondering, we've had the social media for quite a short time, a few years. It started out with the young ones, with the students, with the media people, in Norway at least. Now we have people from 40 to 60 joining in like crazy. But at the same time, it's we know that this came quickly. And that social media has been growing quickly, but where is it heading? And I'd like to ask Marius and maybe even Gutjahr, already now people talk of social media fatigue, that we are starting to get fed up with it. Twitter is going down, Facebook is still growing as far as I know, but where are we heading, and are we so sure that this is going to be the thing for the future?
No, we're not sure that it is going to be the thing for the future, but right now it seems like it's the thing for the future. I think especially when it comes to social networks like Facebook, you invest invest a lot of yourself into that network. You have your friends, you have your video, you have your chats. So it's not that easy to just walk away to a different competitor. You can probably, or people will probably get fed up, but still, I think, I mean, every hype is like that. It will go up, then will go a little bit down, and then it will stabilize. I think we will see that, especially with Facebook. When it comes to Twitter, I think Twitter is more different from Facebook than we like to think. I mean, in Norway, it has been this big debate whether Twitter maybe is like this elitistic place, not like the grassroots thing that we see, like you say, in Facebook, even like 50, 60, 70-year-old people are joining in now. You don't see that on Twitter. Twitter is really, really elitistic. It's a lot of journalists, a lot of politicians, a lot of like, the discussions are kind of on a higher level, if you can say that. So I really don't think we will see a competitor that will be able to take down Facebook in the next, let's say, 5 years then. People have invested way too much of their privacy into it. I don't know if that answers your questions, really. But.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like, and at the end of the day, like, I don't really care whether they call it Facebook, Twitter, Flutter, Flubber. You know, I think people like to talk. They like to be in touch. I think they like to gather and to share things. And the platform doesn't matter. But I think communication itself is here to stay.
Is it more important to you than watching TV?
Here's a funny thing. I don't know like how is it in the rest of the world and with you at your places at home, but we're facing I think it's called the World Cup of Soccer. Yeah, right. No. Very soon. And in Germany, people are crazy about it. Like crazy. Even people who do not care about sports at all, they go out and they wanna join and witness it together. They could, you know, like we all have our flat screen TVs now. They're huge, they're expensive, they're like state of the art. They could get a much better view there, right? And they can, you know, like tune up and down the sound and everything. It would be much more comfortable. Yet they like to watch it in a community. They go out, they gather, you know, like together with friends. So there's something, you know, like that tells me that television, in a way, you know, like also always will have its place. But maybe, you know, like as we've seen two beautiful examples of the chat that is like next to the TV screen, that people actually want to Twitter or to Facebook chat while they're watching something because, you know, they want to discuss things as they see it. And so yes, I think television is here to stay too.
David Lowen, would you agree that regional stations generally are still highly under-exploiting the opportunities that they've got in social networking? And if you were preparing a business plan for a very nervous station manager, how much would you tell him that it's going to cost? And how long would it take to build up to the sort of levels that you've shown us?
A business plan, that's that's asking a lot. But this is exactly what is needed, and not just regional stations, but large tracts of EBU members. The penny hasn't dropped about how valuable social networks can be for them as a tool for meeting their mission. It isn't actually that expensive to start, frankly. I mean, that is one of the features, isn't it, of the internet, that the barriers to entry are low, and the barriers to entry are low for everybody. And a broadcaster he's sitting on a group of professional, capable staff. But there are changes to be done, mindsets to be changed, and management to be convinced. So, you know, if you like, we'll all come and write a few business plans for you. We'll come and visit and write the business plans. But the job, for sure, needs to be done, and it really isn't that expensive to do it.
I totally agree on that, but I'm not really good at numbers and business plans. But I think that Rich's last slide is a really eye-opener when people that just got laid off from the newspaper industry in the US tells us that fail more. I mean, even in the NRK, we are like really nervous to fail. Everything is supposed to be a success. If it doesn't rate that good or doesn't have enough clicks, we throw it away after like 2 weeks. In social media, it's so new, you can't really do that. You have to like invest some money and try to crash and burn, and maybe 1 in 10 or something like that will be a huge success. But I think when you break that code, you will actually be very successful with it.
I have a short one on that. What would be the alternative?
The alternative would be employing a cameraman for a day and getting video pictures onto the screen for your peak time news program.
Is that going to save you?
Well, that is the alternative. If there is to be investment, can you say in terms of people, staff, is it employing 2 people for a year before you can put something on screen, or 1 person for a month?
If I might, David, it's not that simple, frankly speaking. I mean, first of all, I was in India when the bombs went off in Mumbai, okay? We heard absolutely nothing at all of what was happening from the Indian broadcasting, but I got it all from Twitter. So that day, I knew that there is a role for social media as well as broadcasting. So it's not an either-or issue. It's an and issue. And that's the message that regional broadcasters, of course I don't deny, that, you know, you look in the States, and as you heard, newspapers, a lot of journalists losing their jobs, partly because of the recession, but a bit because of technological developments. But they have to get this message. It's an and thing and not an either-or thing.
Yes, my name is Jose Luis Rodriguez. I'm from HITN Television in New York City. First, I would like to commend NRK for the fantastic use of social media with the train video. And I have a question related to what you just spoke. And for Richard, is how do you connect the social media experience that you have with your broadcaster? That's where as a executive in a media company, my challenge is how do you connect both experiences and make it better for the end user or for your customers?
Okay, as I mentioned before, I was like giving you one example of what I'm not happy with. That was our Twitter feed. This is a one-way street, and I would very much encourage my very own people to open it up, to like let people talk back to us. As for our webpage, like we put a lot of our material on our web pages, yet we are afraid of having the people to join the conversation. We do not use talkbacks, but the talkbacks actually make our stuff even greater, although we get here and there criticized for something that we do. But yet we are, like we become a marketplace that we already heard this morning, that we need to be, I think. So when you ask me for like small actions in order to like combine the two worlds that do not cost a lot, actually they are for free. Just open up like come down from the tower that you've been like broadcasting from for decades now, and try to get like on the same eye level with your viewers. They not only they respect you for that, they also give you good ideas. And we've learned like about the competition, about the train ride, that is just brilliant. I think if you would put 5 editors into a room and ask them come up with a good idea, they would have never come up with the idea of like doing the cycling thing. It was just brilliant. And you need like the wisdom of the crowd is so unique and so important, and best of all, it's free.
Hi, I just David's asked me if I'd say something about how much it costs, but I just wanted to really reiterate that. Sorry, I'm Nick from BBC. That it isn't an and/or thing. It's our third platform. When TV came along, we didn't all say we were going to chuck out radio, and when the web's come along, we're not going to chuck out TV and radio. What we've got to learn from TV and radio and apply to the web is that it's a really different behaviour with the audience. Very, very typically, very generally, with a TV program on, you sit back and watch it on your sofa, and it's fairly passive. With the radio on, you might be doing something else while it's on. You might be cooking or driving or something like that. And the web is another experience again. It's another audience behaviour. It's a sit-forward behaviour. It's an active behaviour. And where it's very different from traditional broadcasting, as was written about by Negroponte and being digital 20 years ago, is that broadcasting is all about we're at the centre, we're pointing stuff out in a one-way relationship to individuals. With the web, the individual is absolutely at the centre of experience, and I think the social networks are where that exemplifies that in the greatest degree. People are in control, they're owning their experience, and with the internet becoming one of our most important pipes for content, we need to be making stuff that they choose to pull down their pipe to them. So I think it can all coexist, but it can be done so cheaply, and a lot of it will be done by the audiences themselves. The big screen, small screen experience a few of us were having last night watching the election with big BBC coverage with their Starship Enterprise studio, and some Twitter feeds from the people who were just about to go on camera. One of them was brilliant. He said, I've just told a lie to the guy I'm going to be on telly with. Let's see if she notices. And surely enough, came on camera, and Joan Collins was looking a bit confused because she'd been told a great big lie 2 minutes before. So it's cheap. I think it can cost us nothing because I think the audience or the contributors can do it themselves. But we also don't need to invent the platforms because the platforms are there. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they're all there. We can just put stuff on there. So it's cheap, can be built into other people's jobs if we're brave enough to address that.
Okay, thanks. Other questions? No? One final statement. Richard?
Final statement?
Yes.
Like for the day or?
On social media?
Let's have coffee.
Okay.
No. Seriously, and maybe to David, I don't think like social media or whatever is going to be the next big thing. It's going to replace anything. I think like it's an add-on. It is something that we never thought about it. It's another tool that we could use, and it's not about firing people. It's not about lay off people or like saying either or. You've already said that, David. So I think like when something happens, even journalists cannot be everywhere. So when something happens and we're lacking pictures, of course we're like taking, we would love to have our SNG there. But if we just cannot have it there? Why do not like use like the people? And we all have our little reporting devices right here with us. Every one of you has it, and every one of us could make a picture and send it in. And we work with that picture as long as we do not have like qualified, trained storytellers, reporters to do a better job. But as long as they're not there, I use whatever is out there in order to bring me the information or the picture or the movie. And I think we should make use of that much better, even on a regional level.
So just use it. David?
People are saying, the platform doesn't matter, use whatever is available, and I guess, one could see that argument, but I'm feeling deep down that actually the platform does matter, and that we do need pluralism in this business, just like we don't need just 2 Hollywood studios or 2 makers of cars, that this is moving towards a less pluralistic society with just a few companies, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and so on. And I feel easier in terms of society and so on, if there was something we could do to make the platform environment more pluralistic. Thank you.
Okay, last one for you, Marius.
Yeah, short one. I think all the broadcasters wondering whether to go into social media or not and how. I think that the first thing that you have to learn and to think about is to start communicating with your users. This is not a one-way thing, and as long as you don't realize that, you might as well not, because trying to behave like an old traditional broadcaster in social media, you will fail, and you will fail badly. So get rid of that mindset, get down there and start talking to your audience.
Okay, thank you very much.